The crystal chandelier above the ballroom scattered light like fallen stars across the marble floor. Olivia Sterling clutched her tablet against her chest, mentally checking off the final details of the charity gala she had spent 3 months planning. Everything had to be perfect tonight. Her fledgling event coordination company depended on it. "The ice sculptures are melting faster than expected," her assistant whispered urgently into her earpiece. Olivia pressed her fingers to her temple. "Switch on the backup cooling fans, discreetly." She navigated through the crowd of designer gowns and tailored tuxedos, feeling distinctly out of place despite her borrowed evening dress. These people spent more on watches than she made in a year. At the center of it all stood Sebastian Hunt, the man whose charitable foundation had hired her company for this event. He was exactly as the magazines portrayed him: tall, devastatingly, handsome, and completely unapproachable. His dark suit probably cost more than her rent, and his expression suggested he would rather be anywhere else. Sebastian Hunt had built a technology empire before turning 30, and now at 35, he wielded more influence than most politicians. "Miss Sterling." His deep voice cut through her thoughts as he approached. "The seating arrangements have changed. My grandmother will be joining us after all." Olivia's heart sank. Victoria Hunt, the formidable matriarch of the Hunt family, was legendary for her exacting standards. "Of course, Mr. Hunt, I'll have a place prepared immediately." "See that you do." His gray eyes were cold, assessing. "This gala reflects on my foundation's reputation. There can be no mistakes." Before she could respond, a commotion erupted near the entrance. James Morrison, a prominent businessman known for his ruthless tactics, strode into the ballroom with a woman on his arm. Olivia noticed Sebastian's jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. "Well, well," Morrison's voice carried across the space as he approached them. "Sebastian Hunt, hosting a charity event. How generous of you, considering your company's recent financial troubles." Olivia felt tension crackle in the air. She knew enough about business rivalries to recognize a predator circling wounded prey. "Morrison?" Sebastian's voice remained steady. "How unexpected to see you here, given your documented lack of charitable contributions." Morrison's smile turned sharp. "I came to make you an offer, Hunt. Sell me controlling interest in Hunt Technologies and I'll keep certain information about your offshore accounts private. Otherwise, by tomorrow morning, every news outlet will have evidence of financial fraud." Olivia's breath caught. She glanced at Sebastian, whose expression had turned to stone. "You're bluffing," Sebastian said quietly. "Am I?" Morrison pulled out his phone. "One call to my contact at the Times and your reputation crumbles. Your investors will flee. Your grandmother's legacy foundation will be tainted by scandal." He paused dramatically. "Unless you agree to my terms right now, in front of all these witnesses." The surrounding guests had fallen silent, sensing the drama unfolding. Olivia's mind raced. She had worked too hard on this event to let it become a spectacle of corporate warfare. More than that, something in Sebastian's carefully controlled expression told her the accusation was false. She had reviewed the foundation's finances personally during the planning process. Everything had been transparent and legitimate, an idea formed in her mind. Reckless, potentially career-ending, but possibly effective. She stepped forward and placed her hand on Sebastian's arm. "Darling, you promised no business talk tonight." She pitched her voice loud enough for the nearby guests to hear. Sebastian's eyes snapped to hers, surprise flickering across his features. Olivia smiled up at him, her heart hammering. "Mr. Morrison, my fiancée and I would appreciate if you respected our celebration. This is hardly the time or place for business negotiations." Morrison's eyebrows shot up. "Fiancée? I've heard no announcement. We've been keeping it private." Olivia tightened her grip on Sebastian's arm, silently pleading with him to play along. "The engagement is very recent. In fact, I've been so overwhelmed with happiness that I can barely focus on work." She turned to Sebastian, hoping he understood what she was attempting. If Morrison believed Sebastian had personal stability and family support, his blackmail might lose its power. Corporate raiders targeted isolated executives, not men with strong personal foundations. Isn't that right, darling? For a moment, Sebastian simply stared at her. Then something shifted in his expression. His arm moved around her waist, drawing her closer. Absolutely. His voice softened in a way she hadn't heard before. I apologize, Morrison, but my fiancé is correct. Tonight is about charity and celebration, not business. If you have legitimate concerns, my attorneys will be happy to address them through proper channels. Morrison's face darkened. This changes nothing, Hunt. I have evidence. Evidence of what exactly? Victoria Hunt's imperious voice cut through the tension. The elderly woman materialized beside them, leaning on an elegant cane. Her sharp eyes took in the scene with obvious intelligence. I hope you're not making unfounded accusations against my grandson, Mr. Morrison. The Hunt family has excellent legal representation. I'm sure the authorities will be very interested in your so-called evidence, Victoria continued. Falsifying documents to blackmail a business rival is a serious crime, one that my lawyers would be delighted to prosecute. Morrison's confidence wavered. He looked between Sebastian, Olivia, and Victoria, clearly recalculating his strategy. This isn't over, he muttered before turning and stalking away. The moment he disappeared into the crowd, Olivia expected Sebastian to release her. Instead, his arm remained around her waist. Victoria studied them both with an expression that was impossible to read. Grandmother, Sebastian began. Victoria held up her hand. Not here. Too many eyes and ears. She looked at Olivia with newfound interest. Miss Sterling, isn't it? The event coordinator. Quite the quick thinker. Before Olivia could respond, Sebastian leaned down and whispered against her ear. We need to talk. Privately. Now. His breath against her skin sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. What had she just gotten herself into? The library, Victoria suggested. 20 minutes. After you've managed the remainder of this gala, Miss Sterling. My grandson apparently requires your services in more ways than one. Sebastian's grandmother walked away, leaving Olivia acutely aware of the warmth of Sebastian's body against hers and the weight of hundreds of curious eyes upon them. Well, Sebastian murmured, still holding her close. That was unexpected. Olivia managed a shaky laugh. I'm sorry. I just reacted. I'll explain to everyone it was a misunderstanding. Will you? His gray eyes held hers with an intensity that made her pulse quicken. Or will you hear my proposition first? Proposition? A smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. The first genuine smile she had seen from him all evening. You just claimed to be my fiancée, Miss Sterling. Perhaps we should make that official. Olivia's world tilted on its axis. You can't be serious. I'm always serious about business, Sebastian replied. And you, Olivia Sterling, might have just become the solution to a very complicated problem. The library in Hunt Towers occupied the entire 42nd floor, a temple of leather-bound books and polished mahogany that smelled of old paper and expensive whiskey. Olivia stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the city lights blur into streaks of gold and white below. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped her phone. You're insane! Rachel Park's voice crackled through the speaker. Tell me you didn't agree to this. I haven't agreed to anything yet, Olivia whispered, glancing toward the door. I'm still processing. Processing what? That a billionaire wants to pay you to pretend to be his wife? Liv, this is how horror movies start. Olivia pinched the bridge of her nose. Her best friend since college, Rachel had always been the practical one, the voice of reason when Olivia's impulsive nature threatened to derail her life. Right now, that voice was screaming warnings she couldn't quite ignore. It's not like that. He needs to stabilize his public image. Morrison has been circling his company for months, spreading rumors, manipulating stock prices. A sudden engagement shows stability, family values, all the things investors trust. And what do you get besides money? Olivia bit her lip. Enough to save my company, maybe enough to actually build something real. The door opened before Rachel could respond. Sebastian entered, followed by a man carrying a leather briefcase. The stranger was perhaps 50, with silver hair and the confident bearing of someone who had spent decades in boardrooms. "I'll call you back." Olivia ended the call quickly. "Miss Sterling, this is Thomas Brennan, my attorney and oldest friend," Sebastian said, gesturing to the other man. "Thomas, Olivia Sterling, my unexpected savior." Thomas extended his hand with a warm smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Miss Sterling, Sebastian has told me about your quick thinking tonight. Very impressive." "I'm not sure impressive is the right word," Olivia replied, shaking his hand. "Reckless might be more accurate. In my experience, the best solutions often appear reckless at first." Thomas set his briefcase on the massive desk and opened it. "Shall we discuss the particulars?" Sebastian poured 3 glasses of amber liquid from a crystal decanter. He handed one to Olivia, and she accepted it gratefully, taking a fortifying sip. The whiskey burned warmly down her throat. "The situation is this," Sebastian began, settling into a leather chair and gesturing for Olivia to sit across from him. "James Morrison has been systematically attacking my company through market manipulation and corporate espionage. He wants to acquire Hunt Technologies at a fraction of its value and dismantle it for parts." "Why?" Olivia asked. "Revenge?" "My father." Sebastian's expression hardened. "Gregory Hunt made enemies before he abandoned the company and his family. 15 years ago, Morrison was one of them. He blames my father for a failed business deal that cost him millions. Since he can't touch Gregory, he's coming after me." Thomas pulled several documents from his briefcase. "Morrison has been feeding negative stories to financial journalists, creating doubt about the company's stability. In the current market, climate perception becomes reality very quickly. Investors get nervous, stock prices fall, and suddenly a hostile takeover becomes feasible." "But the accusation tonight," Olivia said, "about offshore accounts and fraud, was any of that true?" "Completely fabricated," Sebastian replied firmly. "But by the time we prove that through legal channels the damage will be done. Morrison knows this. He's betting that the scandal alone will be enough to destabilize everything I've built." Olivia studied him over the rim of her glass. Despite his cold exterior, she detected something deeper in Sebastian's eyes. Pride, certainly, but also genuine fear of losing something that mattered. "So where do I fit in?" Thomas slid a thick contract across the desk. "Mr. Hunt proposes a contractual marriage lasting 1 year. You would appear publicly as his wife, attend social functions, and maintain the appearance of a stable, committed relationship. In exchange, you would receive a substantial monthly stipend, full payment of any debts your company currently carries, and a generous settlement at the end of the year." Olivia's hands shook as she picked up the contract. The numbers swam before her eyes. It was more money than she had ever imagined having. "This is crazy," she breathed. "It's business," Sebastian corrected. "You need financial security. I need to project stability and respectability. We can help each other." "For a year." 1 year, he confirmed. "After which we'll have an amicable, quiet divorce. You'll walk away with enough money to build your business into something significant. I'll have weathered Morrison's attacks and secured my company's future." Olivia stood and paced to the windows again. Below, thousands of people lived their ordinary lives, unaware that 42 floors above them, someone was considering a decision that felt anything but ordinary. "What about your grandmother?" "Victoria seems like she would see through this immediately." A ghost of a smile crossed Sebastian's face. My grandmother is the one who suggested it. Olivia spun around. What? After you left the ballroom, she cornered me, Sebastian explained. Told me that Miss Sterling showed more spine and strategic thinking in 5 minutes than any of the socialites she'd been introducing me to for years. She said, and I quote, "If you let that girl walk away, you're a fool." Thomas chuckled. Victoria, Hunt has excellent instincts for people. If she approves, that's half the battle won. But this is fraud, Olivia protested weakly. We'd be lying to everyone. We'd be entering a legal contract with clearly defined terms, Thomas said gently. Many marriages throughout history have been strategic alliances. This is simply more honest about its foundations. Sebastian rose and approached her, his gray eyes intense. I won't pretend this is conventional, Olivia. But I will promise you this. I'll treat you with respect. You'll have your own space, your own life. The only requirement is that in public, we appear to be a couple genuinely committed to each other. And, in private? In private, we're business partners. Nothing more, unless you decide otherwise. The last phrase hung in the air between them. Olivia felt heat rise to her cheeks. She thought of her struggling company, the mounting debts, the very real possibility of failure that kept her awake at night. She thought of her parents, who had sacrificed so much to put her through college, only to watch her business barely survive month to month. I need time to think. You have until morning, Sebastian said. Morrison will expect an official announcement soon, or he'll assume tonight was a bluff and escalate his campaign. Thomas handed her a business card. My direct line. Call any time. If you have questions about the contract, I've tried to make it as fair as possible, but you should have your own attorney review it as well. Olivia took the card with numb fingers. This is really happening. Only if you agree, Sebastian said quietly. I won't force you into anything. But Olivia, I meant what I said. You think quickly under pressure. You're resourceful and brave. Those aren't qualities I take lightly. She met his gaze, searching for deception or manipulation. Instead, she found something unexpected. Sincerity. Whatever else Sebastian Hunt might be, he was being honest with her now. I'll give you my answer tomorrow morning, she said finally. That's all I ask. Sebastian walked her to the door, his hand briefly touching the small of her back. The gesture felt oddly protective. Thomas will have a car take you home. In the elevator, Olivia leaned against the cool metal wall and closed her eyes. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. Yet another part, the part that had always driven her to take risks and chase possibilities, whispered something different. Her phone buzzed. Rachel had sent a series of increasingly frantic texts. Olivia typed a quick response. Coming over. Need wine and advice? Lots of both. The city rushed past the car windows as Thomas's driver navigated the late-night traffic. Olivia watched the neighborhoods change from gleaming corporate towers to familiar, comfortable streets. This was her world. Modest apartments, corner bodegas, people working hard just to stay afloat. Could she really leave it, even temporarily? For Sebastian's world of penthouses and power? Rachel was waiting at her apartment door, 2 wine bottles already open. Start talking. Olivia collapsed onto the couch and recounted everything. The contract terms, the conversation with Thomas, Sebastian's unexpected honesty about his motivations. Rachel listened without interrupting, her expression growing more complex with each detail. Okay, Rachel said finally, playing devil's advocate here. What if you fall for him? I won't. You don't know that. He's handsome, powerful, and apparently more human than the tabloids suggest. You'll be living together, playing house. Feelings happen, Liv. Olivia had considered this, though she hadn't wanted to admit it. The contract is clear, business arrangement only. Contracts can't control hearts. Rachel poured more wine. But here's the thing. You've been killing yourself for 3 years trying to make that company work. You're talented, creative, and brilliant at what you do. If this money lets you actually build something without constantly struggling, maybe it's worth the risk. You think I should do it? I think you should be honest with yourself about why you want to do it. Rachel studied her with knowing eyes. Is it just the money? Or is there a part of you that's curious about Sebastian Hunt? About what it might be like to be part of his world, even temporarily? Olivia didn't answer. She didn't need to. They both knew the truth. At 3 in the morning, Olivia stood at her apartment window, watching the city sleep. She thought about her parents, immigrants who had worked brutal hours to give her opportunities. She thought about the employees who depended on her company for their livelihoods. She thought about the dreams she'd had when she first started her business, dreams that had slowly been crushed under the weight of reality. And she thought about Sebastian Hunt, standing in his library, offering her a chance to change everything. Her phone lay on the table, Thomas Brennan's business card beside it. One call would set everything in motion. One decision would alter the course of her life. Olivia picked up her phone and began typing an email. Her hands no longer shook. Whatever came next, she would face it head on. The same way she had faced every challenge in her life. She hit send and waited for the dawn. The photograph appeared on every major news outlet by noon. Sebastian Hunt, tech billionaire and eligible, bachelor, kissing his new fiancée on the steps of City Hall. Olivia stared at her phone screen, barely recognizing herself in the elegant woman wearing a cream-colored dress and holding a bouquet of white roses. "Your expression looks genuine," Sebastian commented from across the limousine. "That's good. Authenticity sells." 3 weeks had passed since Olivia signed the contract. 3 weeks of whirlwind preparations, carefully staged photo opportunities, and an elaborate engagement party where she had smiled until her face ached. Now they were married. Legally, officially, bindingly married. The gold band on her finger felt impossibly heavy. "I'm a better actress than I thought," Olivia replied, gazing out at the city streets. Sebastian's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Indeed. They had been living in his penthouse for 2 weeks, occupying separate bedrooms as the contract specified. Their interactions remained cordially professional. He worked brutal hours at Hunt Technologies while she rebuilt her event company with the influx of capital the marriage had provided. They were perfect strangers sharing an address and a last name. It should have felt simple. It didn't. "There's a shareholders meeting tomorrow," Sebastian said, scrolling through his tablet. "I'll need you there. Morrison has been quieter since the wedding, but he's planning something. I can feel it." What kind of something? If I knew, I could stop it. Frustration edged his voice. Thomas has investigators tracking his movements. But Morrison is careful. Whatever he's planning, it will be devastating. The car pulled up to the penthouse building. Olivia gathered her things, ready to retreat to her room and process the surreal reality of her wedding day. Instead, Sebastian's hand caught her wrist. "Wait." His gray eyes searched her face. "Thank you. For today, for all of this. I know it's not what you imagined for your life." Something in his tone made her chest tighten. For just a moment, the cool businessman facade cracked, revealing genuine gratitude underneath. "We had a deal," she said softly. "I keep my promises." "So do I." His thumb brushed across her wrist before he released her. "Remember that?" Olivia fled to her bedroom, heart pounding in a way that had nothing to do with the day's stress. Rachel's warning echoed in her mind. Feelings happen. No, she wouldn't let them. This was business. Just business. The next morning, Olivia dressed, carefully in a navy suit that projected confidence and sophistication. Sebastian had his driver take them to Hunt Technologies headquarters, a gleaming tower of steel and glass that dominated the financial district. Employees stared as they walked through the lobby together, whispers following in their wake. "Ignore them," Sebastian murmured, his hand resting protectively on her lower back. They'll adjust. The boardroom occupied the top floor, a massive space with panoramic city views. Shareholders were already gathering, men and women in expensive suits carrying tablets and leather portfolios. Victoria Hunt sat at the head of the table, her presence commanding despite her age. Grandson, granddaughter. Victoria's eyes twinkled with something that might have been amusement. How domestic of you to arrive together. Grandmother. Sebastian pulled out a chair for Olivia before taking his own seat. Shall we begin? The meeting started routinely enough. Financial reports, quarterly projections, discussions of new technology patents. Olivia listened carefully, impressed despite herself by Sebastian's command of every detail. He knew his company intimately, passionately. This wasn't just business to him. It was his life's work. Then James Morrison entered the room. My apologies for being late, Morrison said, though his smile suggested no apology at all. I was meeting with someone I thought the board should hear from. A man followed Morrison into the boardroom, tall, distinguished, with silver hair and features that resembled Sebastian's enough to be unmistakable. Victoria's face went pale. Gregory. Sebastian stood slowly, his entire body rigid with tension. What is he doing here? I'm here because Morrison contacted me, Gregory Hunt said, his voice smooth and practiced. He suggested the board might benefit from hearing about my son's true character, about the family secrets he's been hiding. Olivia's stomach dropped. This was Morrison's play, bringing back Sebastian's estranged father to undermine him in front of the shareholders. You have no authority here, Sebastian said coldly. You abandoned this company 15 years ago. You have no stake, no voice, no right to be in this room. I have every right as your father. Gregory moved closer, and Olivia saw genuine malice in his eyes. I built this company before you were born. Then you and your mother convinced the board to force me out. Now it's time the shareholders knew what kind of man they've entrusted their investments to. Whatever you're about to say is lies, Victoria snapped, her cane striking the floor with sharp authority. Gregory, you were removed from this company because of your own corruption and incompetence. Don't rewrite history to serve your wounded pride. Morrison pulled out a folder. Mrs. Hunt, perhaps you'd like to see these documents before making accusations. They detail several questionable financial transactions Sebastian made 3 years ago. Transactions that bear a striking resemblance to the offshore account schemes I mentioned at the gala. Olivia watched Sebastian's face carefully. She had learned to read his micro-expressions over the past weeks. Right now, she saw not guilt, but dawning understanding. Those transactions were legitimate restructuring, Sebastian said firmly. Everyone was reviewed by our legal team and financial auditors. Then why hide them in subsidiary accounts? Morrison challenged. Why the layers of corporate shells and international transfers? Because, Olivia heard herself say, rising to her feet, he was protecting the company from corporate raiders. Like you. Every eye in the room turned to her. Sebastian's expression flickered with surprise. Excuse me? Morrison's smile turned condescending. Mrs. Hunt, I appreciate your wifely loyalty, but perhaps you should leave the business discussions. To those who understand them, something inside Olivia snapped. She had spent weeks feeling like an imposter in Sebastian's world, like a woman playing dress-up in a life that didn't belong to her. But she wasn't stupid. She understood business, strategy, and manipulation when she saw it. I understand perfectly. Well, she said coolly, you've been shorting Hunt Technologies stock for months, Mr. Morrison. Every negative rumor, every planted story, every attack on Sebastian's character has been designed to drive down share prices so you can acquire them cheaply. Those transactions 3 years ago were Sebastian moving assets into protected structures because he suspected corporate espionage. He was right to be paranoid, clearly, since you've been plotting this takeover for years. Silence filled the boardroom. Thomas Brennan, sitting near the back, smiled slightly. Morrison's expression darkened. "That's quite an accusation, Mrs. Hunt. Do you have proof?" "Do you?" Olivia countered. "You've made serious allegations about financial fraud. Show the board your evidence. Let them examine it with their own forensic accountants, or admit that—" "You're making unfounded accusations to manipulate this meeting." Gregory stepped forward. "Morrison has shown me documents that clearly indicate—" "Documents you're hardly qualified to interpret," Victoria interrupted sharply. "Gregory, you couldn't balance a checkbook when you ran this company. Your opinion on financial matters is worthless." "Mother, I won't be spoken to—" "You'll be spoken to however I like." Victoria rose, leaning on her cane. "You abandoned your son and this company when things became difficult. You chose gambling debts and business schemes over your family. Now you return, allying yourself with Morrison because he's promised you what? Money, revenge, whatever it is. It won't work." She turned to the board members. "I've sat on this board for 40 years. I watched my son nearly destroy everything his father built. Then I watched my grandson rebuild it into something stronger and more innovative than we ever imagined. Sebastian Hunt has my complete confidence and support. If Morrison wants to continue these attacks, he can do so through proper legal channels. But this ambush ends now." Several board members nodded in agreement. Morrison's face flushed with barely contained anger. "This isn't over," he said quietly, gathering his papers. "There will be investigations, audits. The truth will emerge." "I welcome investigations," Sebastian replied. "Hunt Technologies has nothing to hide. Can you say the same about your own business practices, Morrison?" The threat hung in the air. Morrison left without another word, Gregory following him like a shadow. The moment the door closed, the tension in the room eased slightly. "Well," one of the board members said with a slight laugh, "that was dramatic." The meeting continued, though Olivia barely heard the discussions. Her heart raced with leftover adrenaline. She had just publicly confronted one of the most powerful businessmen in the city. She had defended Sebastian like he was truly her husband, not a contractual obligation. When the meeting finally ended, Sebastian caught her arm. "My office. Now." They walked in silence through the executive suite. His office was minimalist and elegant, all clean lines and expensive art. The moment the door closed, Sebastian turned to her. "That was incredibly reckless. I know. Morrison will see you as a threat now. He might come after you directly." "I know. You could have stayed silent. Let me handle it." "I know." Olivia met his gaze steadily. "But I didn't marry you to be decoration, Sebastian. If I'm going to play this role, I'm going to play it completely." Something shifted in his expression. The cool mask he always wore cracked further, revealing depths she hadn't seen before. He stepped closer, near enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from his body. "Why?" he asked quietly. "Why defend me so fiercely? The contract doesn't require that level of commitment." "Maybe I wanted to." The admission felt dangerous, like stepping off a cliff. "Maybe I'm tired of watching powerful men like Morrison manipulate and destroy because they think they're entitled to everything. Maybe I actually believe in what you've built here." "Olivia." Her name on his lips sounded different, softer. "This is supposed to be business." "I know what it's supposed to be." They stood frozen, inches apart, the air between them charged with unspoken possibilities. Olivia knew she should step back, maintain the professional distance they had carefully constructed. Instead, she found herself swaying forward. Sebastian's hand cupped her cheek, his thumb tracing her jawline with unexpected gentleness. "If we cross this line, we can't uncross it. I know. The contract—" "Forget the contract," Olivia whispered. "Just for a moment. Forget the deal, the arrangement, the business transaction. What do you want, Sebastian?" His answer came in the form of a kiss that shattered every careful boundary they had built. It wasn't the chaste kiss they had performed for cameras. This was real, desperate, full of weeks of suppressed tension and denied attraction. Olivia's hands fisted in his shirt as he pulled her closer, his mouth moving against hers with an intensity that made her dizzy. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sebastian rested his forehead against hers. "This complicates things," he murmured. Everything was already complicated. He laughed, the sound surprising and genuine. "True." Then his expression turned serious. "Olivia, I need you to understand something. My father, Morrison, all of this, it's dangerous. People who get close to me get hurt. I've kept my distance from everyone for years because it's safer that way. I'm not afraid of danger. You should be." But even as he said it, his arms tightened around her. "When this started, I thought I could keep it purely transactional, but you're not what I expected. You're brilliant, brave, and far too good at seeing through my defenses." "Is that a complaint?" "It's a warning." Sebastian pulled back enough to look directly into her eyes. "If we do this, if we make this real, I need you to be certain. Because once I let you in completely, I won't want to let you go. Contract or no contract?" Olivia's heart hammered against her ribs. This was the moment where she could retreat to safety, maintain the professional arrangement they had agreed to, or she could jump, fully and completely, into something terrifying and exhilarating. "I'm certain," she said. The smile that spread across Sebastian's face transformed him. Gone was the cold businessman, replaced by someone younger, lighter, more human. "Then we have a problem," he said, though his tone suggested it wasn't really a problem at all. "Because that contract specifies we're supposed to maintain emotional distance. So we renegotiate." Olivia grinned. "I'm pretty good at negotiations, as it turns out." "I've noticed." Sebastian kissed her again, slower this time, sweeter. "What are your terms, Mrs. Hunt?" "No more separate bedrooms, no more pretending in private, and definitely no more treating this like just business." "Agreed." He tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. "My terms. You let me protect you from Morrison. You trust me when things, get complicated, which they will. And you promise not to run when my past gets messy. Deal." They sealed it with another kiss, both knowing they were making a very different kind of agreement now, one that had nothing to do with contracts and everything to do with taking a chance on something real. A sharp knock interrupted them. Thomas entered without waiting for permission, his expression urgent. "We have a problem. Morrison just filed a lawsuit alleging financial fraud. He's requesting a full federal investigation into Hunt Technologies. This is going to get ugly fast." Sebastian's arms dropped from around Olivia, his expression hardening back into business mode. But this time, he reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "Then let it get ugly," he said calmly. "We have nothing to hide and everything to fight for." Thomas glanced at their joined hands, a knowing smile crossing his face. "Well then, I'd say you two are better prepared than I thought. Mrs. Hunt, I hope you're ready for war, because Morrison won't stop until he destroys everything Sebastian has built." Olivia squeezed Sebastian's hand, feeling the warmth and strength in his grip. "Then he's going to be disappointed, because we're not going down without a fight. The battle ahead would be brutal. Morrison would attack from every angle, and Gregory Hunt's reappearance promised more family drama to come. Federal investigations, media scrutiny, and corporate warfare would test everything they had built together. But standing in that office, hand in hand with the man who had started as a business arrangement and become something infinitely more complex, Olivia felt ready. She had kissed her billionaire boss to save him. Now she would stand beside him as his true partner, fighting for a future neither of them had planned, but both desperately wanted. Whatever came next, they would face it together. Outside the office windows, the city sprawled beneath them, full of possibilities and dangers. The sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light across the glass towers. Sebastian pulled her close once more. "No regrets?" "Not one," Olivia replied. "You're stuck with me now, Mr. Hunt, for better or worse." "I'm counting on it." He smiled against her hair. "Though I should warn you, my family is absolutely going to make things interesting. My grandmother has already started planning a proper wedding reception. Apparently, City Hall wasn't grand enough." Olivia laughed. "Of course she has. Does she know this started as a contract?" "She suspected from the beginning. But I think she also saw what we refused to see. That sometimes the best partnerships start with practical reasons and grow into something extraordinary." "Wise woman. The wisest." Sebastian's expression turned tender. "She told me this morning that she approves of you. Coming from Victoria Hunt, that's the highest possible praise. Then I suppose I should stop being terrified of her." "Don't. Terror is the appropriate response to my grandmother. But she's on our side now, which means we have a formidable ally." Thomas cleared his throat. "As touching as this is, we really do need to strategize. Morrison's lawsuit is comprehensive and well-funded. This fight will take months, possibly years. Then we'd better get started." Olivia straightened her suit jacket, transforming from woman in love back to fierce businesswoman. "What's our first move?" Sebastian grinned at Thomas. "I told you she was perfect for this." "You did indeed." Thomas opened his briefcase. "Welcome to the war room, Mrs. Hunt. Let's save an empire." As they gathered around Sebastian's desk, spreading out legal documents and strategic plans, Olivia realized something profound. She had entered this arrangement thinking it was about money and survival. But somewhere along the way, it had become about building something real. A partnership, a marriage, a future. She had kissed her billionaire boss to save him from a blackmail scheme. Now she would stand beside him as his equal, his partner, his wife in every sense that mattered. The story that began with a desperate gambit in a ballroom had transformed into something neither of them had anticipated. Love had found them despite their careful contracts and protective walls, and as Sebastian's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently while he outlined their legal strategy, Olivia knew she had made the right choice. Sometimes, the best. Love stories started with the most unexpected beginnings. This was theirs. The end.